do it. But you guys have got to make this because you have to internalize the discipline from the outside. Number 3, let me give you a little hint. Try this with the buddies that you set up that bring this grace to you. I worked with a group one time, and you know what they did? There were 6 women who were going through career kind of purpose-changing life seasons where they were launching into ministries with new direction, a few of them in the corporate sector, and they banded together and they set up their goals and their objectives. And you know what they did? Every morning at 7 o'clock, the 6 of them would have a conference call for 15 minutes. Every morning for 6 months. Check in, give their goals of the day, hold each other accountable, support each other, and they do it the next day. And they said it was a life-changing experience because that external discipline was internalized, and then it became the habit. Let me give you another one. Join an already structured group or something that exists. There's a lot of them out there. Get a trainer. Get consequences. One of the seasons I went through where I was really not in shape and not working on, quiet times and all that, just sort of unstructured and lost a little bit. You know what I did? I had a prized possession I got as a president. It was a Mont Blanc pen. It was one of the things I loved. Never would have bought one. They're too expensive, but I loved it. And I made a covenant with a friend. Check in with me every morning. If I have not done all of my disciplines for that week, I'll give it to you. For 2 years, I never missed one. I was up maybe, in the middle of the night on Sunday night, but I never missed it. Figure out some consequences. And then let me just give you an example of, and I'm probably your greatest hope because I'm one of the, right-brainiest, unstructured people you'll ever see. But I've had to learn this over the years. Let me give you an example of a structure that I find is helpful I've put in my life. Here's what it looks like. On Monday, I get with 2 other people where I process my personal stuff in the way I've told you and stick to the things. On Wednesday morning, I have a structured time that I do with my kids. On Thursday, I go to a one-on-one sort of spiritual direction to go deep person. On Thursday night, we have unalterable date night. It never moves unless you're gone or dead. Okay? On Sunday night, we have a couples prayer group. Now, when I think about it and I add up those hours, it's not a lot. But what it's done, because those hours are in the structure, is it's made me internalize the things that make the rest of everything happen. And what I find about the people that do well is you look at their calendars and those things are not floatable. They're very set for the most part in how their lives are structured and how they're ordered. Okay, and then a third one, number 3. You've got to have support and healing for the inner stuff that's driving you to medicate in these ways. I've mentioned this, but let me tell you something. There's no such thing as a will that's separate from the rest of you. You know, in the Greek, the word will means desire. When God wills something, he desires it. But God's not split with other passions and hunger that overcome his purpose. So if we're hurting and we have a lot of grief and stress, those hungers for medicating ourselves, like Jack said, to chill out or calm down in destructive ways will overcome our commitments. So find somebody, a counselor, whoever it is, find somebody or a place where you are processing the combustible, what's the word I'm looking for? All the pressure that's blowing the circuit so you don't stick to your plan. And then number 4, quarantine your weaknesses. You will fail in the same ways you've always failed. If you look on page 32 in your handout, in your outline, what I've done is I've created a bunch of different ways that people fail that are pretty predictable patterns. You'll probably be able to find yourself in there. And what I mean by quarantine them is under each one, there's an action step for quarantining those. Do not go back on Monday thinking that your same old failure patterns are not going to derail you again, because they will. They will. They absolutely will. Instead, protect yourself by quarantining those weaknesses so that they won't do it again. Like I said, if you're unstructured, you add structure. There are basically 3 categories of weaknesses that derail us. There's internal ones, the way we talk to ourselves and blow ourselves up. There's external ones, the way our lives are organized that don't serve our goals. And there's interpersonal ones, people that get us off track. So you've got to figure out, how are the ways, what gets in my way of being able to do this? And how will I protect myself so that won't happen? And then the 5th one, and I'll close with this, is learn the gift of grace that is the gift of process. If you think you got to go back on Monday and be Jack, then we're not going to make it. But learn the gift of process, because God is a God that has given us the map for building anything or giving any kind of change, and it's done in a process. We don't do it 100% immediately. When I was a graduate student, I had to write a dissertation. That seemed like too big a task. It seems like getting healthy. It's too big. I couldn't do it. And all the things that are involved, I just couldn't do it. I'd look at it. There's a certain number of time or years to do it. I'd look at it. It's too big. I couldn't do it. And so I do what I always do when I get overwhelmed. I'd go play golf. And after a while, time's running out, and I see the deadline coming, and then I start to get afraid. So I did what I do when I get afraid, and I went and prayed. You know what happened? God specifically, and I won't go into the details, but very specifically, he told me, go read a certain passage. I went and read it, and here's what it said. Go observe the ant, O sluggard, and observe her ways, who gathers food in the summer. And I go, sluggard? God, I'm not a sluggard. Now, I'd always been active in all of this. It says sluggard. He told me to read it. And I said, what does sluggard mean? I do my word study. Sluggard, among other things, means indolent. What does indolent mean? I started to study that. You know what it means? Avoiding pain. It comes from the word somewhere to mean we just lean where it's comfortable. I said, you're right, I'm avoiding pain. What do? Go and observe the ant. You know what happened? I told a friend gave me an ant farm. True story. I get the ant farm, I set it up, I put the sand in, the ants come in the mail, I pour them in there, waiting for a dissertation to appear. I'm going, thank you, Jesus, here comes my dissertation. I'm looking, and the ants are like sleepy from the trip, and they're like, nothing happens. I watch these guys, I don't see a dissertation. I knew God had spoken to me, I see no dissertation. I look at it. The next day, they're finally awake. Oh, great. Here's what an ant does. An ant picks up a grain of sand, goes like this. Moves it all the way across this aquarium. It takes him a day and a half. It's that far. And then they turn around. There's plenty of sand right there. Then they turn around and they go back and they pick up another one and they repeat it, grain after grain. I go, what is this? I'm going to play golf. True story. I go on a golf trip. I come back in a week. I walk in my office. I'd forgotten the stupid ants. I walk in. I go, oh my gosh, there is a city built in this ant farm. I go, how do they do that? And then I thought, wait a minute, an ant can't build a city. All they can do is pick up a grain of sand. Wait a minute, I can't write a dissertation. But what are the grains of sand? Well, got to get a committee, 3 professors. How do you do that? You go to lunch and ask them. I can do lunch. You pick a topic. How do you go do that? You look at the literature. You go to the library. I go to the library and read stuff all the time. I can do this. You design a questionnaire and you hand it out to people. I like people. I can do this. And so I start to pick up the grains of sand, and I get lost in the process of picking up the grains of sand, what he's referred to as the rituals and the habits. And I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and guess what? In 6 months, I have a dissertation. And all of a sudden, they're calling the sluggard doctor. It is a miracle. It is a miracle. You will not change your life on Monday by going and back doing it all or nothing. You will do it by finding the grace of God. 1 Peter 4:10. He puts his gifts in people around you, and as they exercise those gifts and we love one another in the body, Here's what 1 Peter 4:10 says. When we're doing that, support, structure, discipline, confrontation, healing, all of that, that you are administering the grace of God in its various forms. Go connect to grace and work Jack's program with the power of grace, and you will succeed as long as you don't think you're going to conquer it in a day, but you pick up one grain of sand at a time, one 45-minute walk, one 10-minute conversation with your 8-year-old, one walk with your spouse, one hello to somebody, one prayer time, one meeting, one quiet time, and at the end of it all, God bless you, because you have accomplished not only your life, but the mission that God has called you to in the only way that anything grew, one grain of sand at a time. God bless you.